Steam and Sorcery, a transdimensional adventure starring Phineas Frakture and Sir Vlishginath, the Cleansing Light. Episode 3, written by Joseph Gatch and Daniel Mitchell. Read by Fentriss Moore. Leading the man down a dizzying series of hallways, when they came upon the door to the war room, Vlishginath pushed open the door, gesturing for the strange traveler to enter, who had been following closely behind him. Present already were the lore master and the high priest, both Garridane and Vogoth seated in the plain-looking wooden chairs that lined the enormous wooden table seated in the center of the room. Clad in his loose-fitting blue and white robes, Vogoth sat with his fingers tinted before him, his head inclined towards the lore master, Garridane, having set his pointed wide-brimmed hat down on the table beside him and holding his smoking long-stem pipe in his left hand. Laid out neatly in front of them were the strange man's belongings. Among them were a wide array of odd-shaped boxes with lights and switches, a stick that looked like the hilt of a sword without a blade, a bent handle with a hollow pipe sticking out of it, many tools which resembled those known and unknown in Ascension, and a variety of capped tubes containing various materials. Garridane held up the recoiled Tesla rod, as the stranger called it, for careful inspection, shaking his head as Vogoth muttered a question. Upon Vlishginath bringing the stranger in, Garridane promptly laid the Tesla rod down carefully. Vogoth gestured towards the empty seats across from them. "Please, have a seat if you would." That said, Vlishginath pulled out one of the chairs for the other man, taking the seat next to the stranger as they both sat down. Removing his helm, Vlishginath gave his hair a toss before setting the angel-winged helmet down on the table in front of him, carefully undoing the buckles on the golden scale shield that was strapped to his left arm as Vogoth spoke again. "I apologize if this all seems a bit formal. I hope you'll understand, though. Your mysterious arrival caused somewhat of a stir among the villagers, and we would simply like to get to the bottom of this. I trust you've not been treated unkindly?" "With the exception of being manhandled by your giant gorilla and the air quality around here, I can't complain too much," the stranger said with a hint of sarcasm as he eyed the group of men around him. He had been in enough inquisitions at the university to recognize scholars and headmasters when he saw them. Either he was about to get the third degree by these guys, or a raise, and he wasn't counting on a raise. Chuckling quietly, Vlishginath reached up and covered his eyes with his right hand. Even Garridane allowed a faint smile that hinted at amusement, while Vogoth frowned at both of them in turn before continuing. "Very good, then. Now, when you first arrived, it was reported that your troll turned against you, and several witnesses say they saw you put it down in an open display of the arcane arts. Our biggest concern is not the magic itself, so much as the fact that the Arcane University has no records of you ever attending one of their institutions. So I'll ask you plainly, are you, in fact, a wizard, or are your gifts of a sorcerer's nature?" As Vogoth spoke the words, his eyes narrowed slightly, and even Lore Master Garridane seemed to focus in on the stranger seated next to Sir Vlishginath. Vlishginath, on the other hand, simply tilted his head, awaiting the man's response, and regarded him with a cool expression. "Sorcery is nothing more than a fairy tale," replied the stranger. "I'm a scientist. I don't know where I am or who you people are, but you have some pretty skewed ideas of reality. And as far as my troll, that thing attacked me when I arrived. I have no idea where it came from, only that the damn thing decided to follow me once I zapped it. What kind of mutations do you have running around here anyway? This place is worse than Toledo." Turning to glance at each other, both the high priest and the lore master gave each other confused looks. "Toledo?" Vlishginath asked, quirking an eyebrow and giving the strange man a suspicious look. "What do you know of the Fey folk?" Garridane asked, puffing at his pipe and looking upon the stranger with a newfound fascination. "Fey folk? Only that there was a place over on 36th Street, but you know how rumors start. Parties get out of hand, someone does something a little off color," the stranger droned on. "I've never heard of Toledo," and I've been to all four corners of the western kingdoms, and as far north as Irgamir's wall beyond the borders of Darlashield on the frozen continent. Where is this Toledo you speak of? Vlishginath asked, leaning forward in his seat. Shaking his head, Vogoth waved a dismissive hand at both of them. This is not the time for such discussions, young man. And as he spoke, Vogoth leveled his gaze on the stranger seated next to Vlishginath. Am I to understand that you not only deny employing a conduit of the arcane, but now you're claiming you don't know where you are? I'm denying, claiming, arguing, stating, asserting, and every other synonym that I can't think of at the moment. I do not employ magic or sorcery in any way, shape, or form, and no, I have absolutely no clue where I'm at. I was supposed to be in New York, and I ended up here. What's your name, stranger? Vlishginath asked, tilting his head further and quirking an eyebrow as the man's voice grew in volume and urgency. I am Phineas J. Frakture, professor, scientist, and becoming really pissed at all of this. I have a schedule to keep, and just who in the name of John Hancock are you? Vogoth frowned, narrowing his eyes coldly on the brazen young man. I've had just about enough of your insolence. You should show that man a modium of respect, boy. He is Sir Vlishginath, the cleansing light, divine champion of mythos, and the savior of this entire realm. Phineas stopped suddenly at the mention of Vlishginath's title. Well over a year ago, a fortune-teller once told him that he would only find peace through the cleansing light, a prophecy that had not come to pass until now. What did you say? He is the savior of the entire realm, Vogoth replied. Not that, the other thing. Are you called the cleansing light? Phineas asked, turning to Vlishginath. I am, in fact. A title bestowed upon me upon anointment. Why do you ask? Vlishginath said, his eyes squinting in suspicion. Phineas shook his head and became nonchalant. No reason. Look, if I can have my things back, I will be out of your hair, your long hair, and beyond my way. Turning, Vogoth and Garridane met each other's gaze, Vogoth seeming to ask an unspoken question with his expression, to which Garridane shrugged in admission. Vogoth looked back to Phineas. Very well. Gather your things and be on your way. Just be certain to refrain from any more arcane incidents until you're well outside the city walls. Gladly, Phineas replied. I'll try not to go over 20 on my broomstick as I fly out of here, he added sarcastically. Hurriedly, he began placing his belongings back into his pack and pocket belt. Suddenly, he stopped and looked around in a panic, checking and rechecking his inventory. Is there something wrong? Vogoth asked, seeing Phineas's dismay. Where is it? Phineas mumbled to himself. Where is what? Garridane asked. Phineas took a last look around. The Malandi bomb was gone. A box, about this big, with a circle of glass on the front, green ooze inside of it. Where is it? Phineas asked again, as he made motions with his hands, trying to describe the object. That item was not among your belongings when we searched your bag. Are you sure you brought it with you? Vogoth queried with no hint of concern. Yes, I'm sure I brought it with me, Phineas snapped back, agitated. What did you do with it? I assure you, we did nothing with your item. It was simply not there, Vogoth said. Phineas became more agitated by their lack of cooperation until he felt a hand upon his shoulder. He turned to see Sir Vlishginath looking intently at him, and in a calm voice the church knight spoke. Tell me what it is, and we will see what we can find together. For some reason, the panic left Phineas. He felt a genuine concern from this man, unlike from the others, and took a deep breath as he relaxed. It is a weapon of enormous destructive power, a bomb. When he received no reaction from the group of men, he continued. A bomb? You know what a bomb is, don't you? Only headshakes and confused looks were returned to him. You do know what fire is, don't you? Well, think of it as a lot of fire that blows everything to dust. Only this doesn't have fire, and there is nothing left. Not even the dust. You are making no sense, boy, Vogoth said. Okay, let me explain it to you this way. If that bomb is not found, and someone figures out how to turn it on, do you see all of this? Phineas waved his hand and spun around. This whole city is gone. Whoosh, forever. Wiped from the face of wherever the hell this is and everyone in it. Just a giant hole in the ground. A void spell, murmured Vogoth to Garrodane. It is not a spell, Phineas shouted. Will you please come out of Fantasyland for just 1 minute? This is science. This is real. If I don't get that back, you could all die. Vogoth leaned forward on his elbows and stared Phineas directly in the eye. Then why would you have that in the first place? Phineas looked back at him and choked back a tear. Because I was going to kill a man. Seeing his distress, Vlishginath leaned towards him, but not in a menacing way, as Vogoth had. Who are you going to kill? Me, Phineas said in a reply. You? Vlishginath repeated, everyone in the room looking astonished. No, not me. Me in another world. Look, I would like to explain the physics and logic of all of this, but we do not have the time. I have to find that bomb before someone sets it off. Phineas finished putting his gear back in his bag and slung it over his shoulder. Thank you for your, hospitality. We cannot let you go, Vogoth replied. You are showing signs of distress, which may lead to your death by your own hand, and the church cannot allow that to happen. I am afraid that you will have to be remanded over to the Sacred Sisters for care until you are no longer a danger to yourself. Phineas arched an eyebrow. You're committing me? You've got to be joking. We are not joking. Sir Vlishginath will take you. That's it. You can deal with the bomb yourselves then. I'm out of here. Phineas reached to his belt and activated the MRT. Expecting the nauseating effect of the reality shift, he was dumbfounded that he still stood in the chamber with the knights of old. He looked down at the device and pulled it from his belt. Everything looked to be in order, but it wasn't working the way it should. He activated it again, trying another reality setting. Nothing happened. No, no, no! This can't be happening! Work, damn it! Why aren't you working? Is there another problem? Vogoth asked. Yes, there is another problem, Phineas responded. I can't go home. I'm stuck here. Then we have a room ready for you, Garrodane said smugly. Vlishginath held up a hand, and all looked to him immediately. If I may, I might have an idea where the bomb might be, and therefore would be able to watch over our guest until we find it. Enlighten us, Sir Vlishginath, Vogoth said. Roderick,